Happy Halloween, guys! Yesterday, Malikai turned 1 month. I know it's been a very long time since I made a video and I kept saying that I would and I didn't. I just wanted to explain my birthing experience and how it went for me. So, let's get on into it. So, my birthing experience was actually really good. October 1st, I had gone into the movies, a premiere, to see Bad Times at the El Royale. Yeah, that's what I saw. And I was there about 5 o'clock because you had to get there early. About 7:30, I had gone into the movies, and that's when I started my contractions. They weren't super strong, but they definitely were contractions happening every 5 minutes. So we were timing them throughout the movie, and they were getting closer and closer together. We went to the hospital at around 10 p.m. They checked me, and I was only 3 centimeters dilated. After they had checked me and I was only 3 centimeters dilated, they had me walk for an hour, and then they ended up sending me home because they said, excuse you. They ended up sending me home. They said I wasn't in actual labor. So I went home about 12 o'clock. I was back at home, 12:30. By 2 in the morning, I started getting closer and closer contractions. On top of that, they were getting more intense. So we had called them, and they said, well, when she was here, she wasn't in actual labor, so just go ahead and stay home. I started to get even more contractions, even closer, more intense. And they were getting so intense that I started to puke. But because I hadn't eaten anything, I was puking bile, which is basically like your stomach acid, I think is what they said. And then I started to bleed. The contractions really were the worst part, the like hour or two before I went in to go into deliver. Most of my contractions were in my back, that's why I was so little. So I undressed myself, went into the bathtub, and I started putting hot water on my back, like scalding hot water, because it just hurt so bad. And then finally my mom was just like, you know what, if you aren't in labor, then you aren't in labor, but at least we'll know. And if we get sent home, we get sent home. But let's just go. Barely had any clothes on, but I put on a shirt, put on some shorts, went downstairs, and at the bottom of the stairs, I felt my body like pushing as if I had to take like a gigantic dump. But I felt my body pushing. And so I was like, Mom, I think my body's pushing. And then we're getting in the car, and I felt it. I was like, Mom, there's another one coming. And I felt my body pushing more. So you guys remember how I said at around 10 was 3 centimeters dilated? Well, when I had finally gone in at around 4 o'clock, 4:30, I was completely dilated +1. So meaning I was 11 centimeters, or I don't know what that means, but all she said is she's complete +1. They had put me into, oh, actually that was about 5 o'clock. Then they had put me onto another bed. Well, first of all, the labor and delivery entry was completely closed. So we had to go to emergency. And from emergency, we had this nurse that didn't know where or what to do. So from the emergency room, we went up to labor and delivery, and I was pushing in the wheelchair because I couldn't walk. I was pushing in the wheelchair. Well, actually I could walk, but they preferred me not to because I was so slow. But I was pushing in the wheelchair, got up to triage, that's when they checked me, and then they switched me from the triage bed to the delivery bed. And I had gone into the first room because the first room is for people who are giving birth so fast. I had to wait about 10-15 minutes for the doctor to get there, which was not my doctor because he lived too far. Waited, Dr. McHale came, great, amazing doctor, really appreciated her. And she was just like, well, I'm Dr. McHale, and I'm going to be delivering your baby today. Dr. Singh couldn't be here. He wouldn't have made it. And they're like, yep, you're about to have this baby. You're about to have it right now. And I was like, okay. I was giving birth so fast that my IV actually, when they had put it in, they didn't have anything on the other side. So my blood literally was just like squirting all over the bed. Then put the little monitor things around me to check the baby's heart rate. My oxygen was low, so that's why in some of the pictures you saw I had the oxygen mask. My oxygen was low, so they put an oxygen mask on me. No more than 35 minutes later, I had pushed my son out, and he is here. I did not get the epidural, but I am so happy that I did not, because throughout my videos, whoever has been watching, you guys saw that I did not want to have an epidural because I was going to try and do it without it. But honestly, delivery was not as bad as everybody made it seem. It was really labor that was harder than delivery was. Delivery was super easy, actually. I did tear. They give you a shot called lidocaine. It's basically just numbing, and they put it right down in my area. He had finally started to come out, so I did tear. I tore to a 2, so 2 inches. But I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel anything. And then he was halfway out, so his head, his shoulders, and his stomach was out, or his chest. And then they took some of the amniotic fluid out of his mouth, and I got to deliver the rest of him, so his other half. And I was beyond happy. Probably the happiest moment I have ever had in my life. I got to feel his feet come out, and it was just amazing. That if I could do birth again, I would. If I could just replay that moment, go through it again, I definitely would go through it again. But now let's go into things they don't tell you about labor and delivery. So a lot of women go into labor and they get the epidural while they're in labor. So because I didn't get the epidural, I felt everything. I had never heard that the contractions were worse than delivery. Never heard that. I have heard so many times that the epidural is the way to go, that the epidural was the thing that you want to do, that the epidural would save your life. But honestly, I am so happy I did not get the epidural, because not being able to feel everything that I felt, I would have been missing out on stuff. Another thing is that they don't tell you about labor and delivery is that lidocaine shot. They don't tell you about that. They also don't tell you about tearing. They also don't tell you that afterbirth, which is when you give birth to your placenta, giving birth to your placenta hurts more than birth. Like, birth really just feels like you're taking a gigantic crap. That's all it really feels like. And it doesn't hurt because you're dilated. But obviously, my story is different than a lot of people's, because some people don't dilate all the way. Some people have a low pain tolerance. I personally have a high pain tolerance. I personally was dilated all the way. So for me, giving afterbirth was way worse because they have to make sure that your placenta's out. So they push really, really hard on your lower abdomen area. And it's also, your uterus is also extremely swollen because obviously it stretches and stretches for the baby. So my uterus was extremely swollen. But overall, I know I made it sound like really, really bad, but overall, labor and delivery was amazing, and I would definitely do it again. But it's not something that I can really explain how it feels so that you get a picture. It's just something you really have to go through in order to get it. But he is my biggest blessing, and I'm so proud of him. He was born at 7 pounds, 7 ounces. I think I put that in my last video. And he was born at 20 inches long, 20 and a half. At his 1 month appointment, he was 9.5, so 9 pounds and 5 ounces. So he's gotten better. Love it. And he is 21.5 inches long. So he's growing perfect. And did get him circumcised. I don't know if you guys were going to ask that, but I did get him circumcised. If I'm being honest, I kind of regret getting him circumcised just because it was such a brutal thing to look at. Obviously, he didn't feel it. He didn't feel any of that. It was all, he got the shot lidocaine, the same thing that I got during birth. So he didn't feel anything, but it just looked so brutal. And then afterwards, the healing process looks extremely brutal. But stay tuned. Next video that's coming out next week, or possibly in a couple days. Stay tuned for that video. Ask me any questions in the comments below. We're going to talk about postpartum and the things they don't tell you about postpartum. I will leave my social media, his social media, and all the fun things that go along with us in the description below. Bye, guys!